Hello, hello. We've got another one by the Bling Baby. I'll be showing you how I prep my rhinestone tumblers and how I bling them. So I start by sanding and wiping with alcohol or washing. Either one is fine, we just gotta get those debris off of the cup. Those debris can interfere with adhesion, so make sure it's clean. And here are my materials that I'll be using today. Going in with BSI, Bob Smith Industries, 2-part epoxy. You really do need to mix this well. At least 30 seconds, a really good mix, and then I added my glitter. Adding glitter will change the consistency just a little bit. All in all though, it still will work the same. Alright, second most important step is the foundation line. You really need to take your time here and make sure this line is straight as possible. If this line isn't straight, you'll run into problems, especially with the honeycomb pattern, which is what I'll be doing on this cup. Alright, so when you get here, you need to adjust that line and make sure everything is straight. So I like to put my cup flat on the surface and then push all my rhinestones down. Once that line sets, you can go ahead and lay the second line, and your second line should lay perfectly into the first line. Just here, we're not on the taper yet, like right here there isn't a taper, but as you go on, you're gonna obviously have a taper and you're gonna need fillers as well. If you don't know what I mean by taper, just that it gets smaller on the way down. And with a pattern like honeycomb, you really have to be patient because you're gonna need smaller size stones to keep the line straight. And I'm just going back and adjusting my second row. Definitely recommend taking your time on these first few rows because they can make or break your pattern. Alright, so I'm gonna go ahead and continue on the honeycomb pattern. You can either work upwards or you can go all the way around the tumbler. It's up to you. I'd say once you feel comfortable with honeycomb pattern, go ahead and work upwards. But if you're unsure and you just want more practice, I would say go around each line. And even though it takes longer, it helps keep your line super straight. So whichever one works best for you. Okay, in here I'm just applying a thin line of glue around the logo, and it's pretty tacky, and I wanted it that way because I didn't want the rhinestone sliding into the logo. If that happens with a 2-part epoxy glue, it can kind of leave a film on the logo, and then if you try to wipe it off, it can kind of damage the logo too. So that's why I didn't want to use like a wet, fresh glue around it. Okay, so going around the logo, just take your time so everything ends up even. Going in with the 5mm or SS20. Progress has been made. We are a few hours in. So the taper is starting to really stand out here. Here is where those fillers start coming into play. With that gap, I know that I can't use an SS20 rhinestone. It's just too big, so I'm gonna go ahead and size down to a stone that will fit that gap. It's really that simple, but you do need to have patience, and that's kind of where it can be time consuming on taper tumblers. So around the logo, I just go ahead and work my way into it. I'm just seeing what size stones I can fit into these spots. So here is where it's kind of like a game because you have to kind of play around with the rhinestones and see what fits where and how to keep the line straight. I know it seems intimidating when we're filling around the logo, but it's really not that bad. Here, working my way up each row, getting as close as I can with that 5mm. You probably notice a little gap there, but that's okay because we're gonna go back and fill it in, but that just lets me know that I need a filler stone there. So you can see right here. These are tight spots, so I'm going in with the SS3 and SS6. You just wanna make sure everything's filled in. I decided to add some spice and add these snowflakes in. If you don't have one of these weeder pens, you should definitely get one, game changer. Shout out to the person who sent me this. I love it so much. Adding some more glue right here. At this point, my glue is a little bit tacky, so I'm only using a little bit on this part and not filling a large area in. Just do your best not to get any of that glue on top of those rhinestones, otherwise it will cover the facets and they won't sparkle as much. And you can see here that everything is even. And that's what you want. You want to make sure everything looks straight and even as you go down the cup. Here is some satisfying snowflake action. I underestimated how long these would take, and they took quite a while. I had 4 of them, so it was a couple hours worth of work, especially with the SS3. So that's when you want to put on a good podcast or a good Netflix show or something, honey, because it just takes so long. But it's these little details that I really love because they really can add that spice and just make something special. Please excuse my voice. I'm just getting over the Rona. It's the winter season, so you know what that means. Make sure you're staying hydrated. Make sure you're staying healthy. Vitamin C, tea, all of that. And of course, rest. I know it's hard to rest, but we got it sometimes, right? Okay, so I'm just putting the glue down here and applying it evenly as I can. You don't want it too thick and you don't want it too thin, so you need to find a happy medium. Take your time with this, and because if you have an excess of glue, it'll spill over on your stones and just kind of like pool up and look bad. And if it happens, it happens, but you want to try your best not to have that. Here is some satisfying honeycomb action. As you can see, if you have a good honeycomb, those stones should fall perfectly into the other one. And if it doesn't, then you know that you need a filler stone, but still you should be able to keep your line straight, and that's the most important thing. Like I said with this pattern, because it'll be thrown off pretty easy, and that's why a lot of people usually don't want to do honeycomb pattern, because it is a little bit stressful, a little bit tougher. But I love the appearance of it. It should be looking like that, like a honeycomb. And here we have her. This is the final product. Thank you so much for watching. Be well.